With a Session Daily Update, I'm Chris Carpenter. We are moments away from coverage of today's House floor session. The Omnibus Public Safety and Judiciary Finance Bill is among the 5 calendared items scheduled for debate. Sponsored by Representative Kelly Moeller, the proposal includes $2.2 billion in new spending and contains red flag and background check firearm provisions, a no-knock search warrant ban, and new policies relating to criminal record expungements and clemency reform.
When we started this committee, I said one thing that was really important for us was the fact that people lacked confidence in our public safety system. When we don't have a system that people trust, victims don't report crimes, witnesses don't come forward, people that are supposed to be held accountable aren't, and we have a problem. And we have a lot of work to do in this committee, and we've done a lot of work to try to rebuild that trust in our system. And I really, truly believe that this bill does that in a transformational way.
Supporters believe the proposal will take an innovative approach to criminal justice reform. Representative Walter Hudson shared his view on the bill during a House Public Safety Committee meeting on March 30th.
You're taking good steps here. In trying to take a more comprehensive approach to how we deal with violations of the public trust and violations of individual rights. But it's weighed very heavily in favor of the assumption that everyone wants to be a good person. And that's just not true. There is a certain segment of the population, however small, that's going to keep doing it again and again and again and again, no matter how well you treat them.
The Omnibus Human Services Finance Bill is one of the other big-ticket items expected on the floor. Sponsored by Representative Mahmoud Noor, the proposal would add over $1 billion in new funding and contains provisions related to disability and aging services, opioid abuse prevention, and long-term and direct care treatment.
This bill is a generational investment in long-term care. It's a historic investment. It's about caring for our loved ones and making the smart economic choices for families and communities. This bill is centered on direct support professionals, a majority of whom are women and BIPOC, who earn a wage of $13 per hour with few or no benefits, while providing compassionate and life-sustaining care.
Representative Ann New Brindley, Republican lead for the House Human Services Finance Committee, has concerns over the lack of nursing home funding in the bill.
In a single month, just in November, in a single month, 11,000 people across the state were turned away from nursing homes because there is no room in the inn. There's no place to put them. And we keep hearing about these historic investments, and the investments in this bill are important, and they will help our senior citizens in different ways, but they're not helping our nursing homes.
You can check out both omnibus proposals and read what's in them on the House website at www.house.mn.gov. The Omnibus Cannabis Bill is also part of today's agenda. Members debated House File 100 late last night before adjourning. It's expected that the debate will continue at some point during today's meeting. Coverage of today's expected to be lengthy House floor session is up next. Let's join members in the House chamber for the meeting.
The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Please join me as I bless our time together. Almighty and most merciful God, today we gather in this room on this cool April morning. I ask your blessing over our representatives and over all our policymakers, state leaders, and centers of influence. I pray that your peace would ring throughout the halls.
Baby shark do-do-do-do-do, baby shark do-do-do-do-do, baby shark do-do-do-do-do, baby shark.
Their minds and their deliberations as they collectively weigh the impact and outcomes of their decisions. I pray that you will season each of their conversations wherever they might occur with grace, resulting in a fair and equitable.
I see there might be a little bit of a lag between the audio and video. I apologize for that.
I ask that you abundantly bless, protect, and prosper them in the days ahead. May they find a good result from their efforts and responsibilities, and may they labor not in vain. Do this, I ask for your glory. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. The chaplain for today is Chaplain Keith Beckwith from the Minnesota National Guard in St. Paul, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. I feel like we're in elementary school, for real, dude. It's so weird.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will take the roll.
Take the roll. Hope everyone's packing their pipes for this little trip. At least we can enjoy it together. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you all. Oh, yeah. All right. They take a recess right away? No. I'm pretty sure the first thing on the docket today is the continuation of the discussion from last night about HF 100. So, hoping that that is what's going on right now. Again, happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope you're having a good day. Again, sorry, I think there might be a little bit of an audio lag. I was trying to fix it. I don't know how to at this point. I see the video lag is a little bit, but I think we'll be all right. Once we get going, let me know if there's an audio issue aside from the little bit of lag. Hope everyone's having a good day. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining my Twitch. Beautiful sunny day in Rochester, Minnesota today. Well, that tastes just dandy.
The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House 93rd Session 2023, 55th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, April 24th, 2023.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is on your desk and online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading House File number 2. Second reading House File number 782.
Second reading.
And second reading House File 1234.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate bills.
Second reading Senate File number 2744.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 3285 through 3286.
First reading House files 3285 through 3286. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 1311. The message is signed Thomas S. Boddard, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading Senate file number 1311, an act relating to education, modifying provisions for pre-kindergarten through grade 12. The bill is being referred to the Committee on Education Finance.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Long.
Mr. Speaker, I move a recess to the call of the Speaker until approximately noon. Rules will be meeting immediately following recess. Democrats will be caucusing in our caucus room.
I am done, dude. No. I fucking
I
knew
recognize
it.
the member from Stearns, the Minority Leader, Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Republican members, we will be immediately caucusing after recess in room 112.
Representative Long moves a recess to the call of the Speaker. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails and the House stands in recess.
Yeah, I guess that's just how it is, right? That's just how it is. Probably could have assumed that, huh? Son of a bitch. I feel like I should have expected that, right? Man. I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. Thanks everyone for kicking it. They recessed until noon, which I had this weird feeling that they would, right? So yeah. Thanks everyone for coming to my stream and kicking it. I don't know what to do at this point because I don't know if I want to stay on for another 45 minutes till they come back. I might. I don't know. I assumed and I thought that the bill was the first order of business today, right when the House opened up again, but it's weird how, like, the House shows up and they just take, like, a roll call really quick and then they go on lunch. Or take, like, a break. It's, I don't know. Fucking weird, man. Fucking weird. What up, everyone? It says it right there. Cannabis bill continued. First and foremost, when we reconvene at noon.
I'm about to go down to Taco Bell and give me a Baja Blast.
What up, Chris?
What's up?
Dude, I thought we were reconvening at fucking noon. This is so fucking stupid. Oh, waste of fucking time, dude. Yo, what up, Junior? Hola, mi amor. Oh. What's up? I don't know why. Everyone's still taking lunch or something. Was supposed to come back at noon.
House will come to order. Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Long from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designate the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Thursday, April 27th, 2023, and establishes a pre-found requirement for amendments offered to the following bills. House File Number 1938 and Senate File Number 2744.
Motions and resolutions. Representative Long.
Madam Speaker, I move that House File 100 be taken from the table.
Representative Long moves that House File 100 be taken from the table. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. House File 100 is before the body. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 100, an act relating to cannabis.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson. The member from St. Louis, Representative Scraba. The member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Madam Speaker and members, some of you know, of course, that I serve as a volunteer EMT. I've shared that many times. But one of the things my profession does, police and fire, is we serve the community. Unfortunately, this bill, House File 100, will not serve Minnesotans in your district correctly. Right now, we have a mental health crisis right now. We spend tons of money on ads to say no to smoking. We have a fentanyl crisis, meth crisis, cocaine, and then we're adding this into the equation. One of the challenges, and we all been guilty of this, of not acting responsible. Unfortunately, in the EMS business, we respond.
What a fucking clown!
I don't say that every run happens because someone's not responsible or is irresponsible, but a lot of the runs
fucking
are
clown.
because we have DUIs. Literally, members, I could spend a whole hour. I know we wouldn't want that because we got a lot of bills on the floor on different situations, but I'll just refer to a few of them here today. This was in the early 2000s. We had underage individuals, 7 individuals in a van on top of Sisseton Hill, rollover. We called in the Sisseton ambulance, Sisseton Fire, Browns Valley Fire, Browns Valley ambulance. All those individuals were flown to Medicare at that time by helicopter or by fixed airplane. And on that situation, they all survived. We had another run, I call it the River Car Wash Run. They were speeding down on Highway 27. I don't think they were racing the patrol officer, even though they were ahead of the deputy's car. They were obviously outrunning them. And they took an approach, so like a Duke of Hazzard, and went into the river. And when we got to the scene, they were all standing on the roof of the car, about 3 inches above the water level in the river. And guess what? They were all under the influence. That's the challenge that we're going to face. We're going to face individuals. We've seen it already. I would say in my 28 years serving as an EMS person, 30 to 40% of our runs have been done because people are not responsible with substance. We had what we call the garage sales run, 5 a.m. Sunday morning. We had a person who unfortunately was under influence. This one wasn't driving, but they were trying to do exercises in the garage. I'm doing that light-hearted humor a little bit there, but it literally sounded like a wild animal in that garage. And then finally, the second worst run I have ever been on in my 28 years.
Bro, no one wants to listen to you.
St. Patrick's Day. I wish McDonald was here to harass them. St. Patrick's Day, we got called to that run. I was on call. No, I was not on call, but they called for additional help. So we went, we had to pull both of our rigs out. We had the best of our best people on that night. And why I say that, when we were at the corner, we just pulled the rigs out. Dispatch came across and said, Sheriff does not know how long they can keep this young girl alive. He's performing CPR. So, of course, we then called for backup, mutual aid with the Graceville ambulance, because we knew we had three victims at that time. Members, that 9-minute
Yeah, dude, are you watching this right now?
The longest times, but we were prepared. We were prepared. We had oxygen. We had advanced airway. We had the backboard rig.
This shit makes me so mad, dude. What a fucking idiot.
Teenagers who should not have been drinking or under influence. We got to the scene. I'm not going to get graphic, but it was a very difficult scene. I've been on hundreds and hundreds of runs. We picked up a gentleman who was 20, I think he was 20 years old, got him to the hospital. Those are the situations that you help ER for a couple hours because they don't have enough staff. But the most difficult of that run was the last person that they lost was 19 years old, and her name was Brittany. That's my daughter's name. My brother was on that one, was assisting the hospital for that, for her up to 7 o'clock. And they had to call. Think about it, folks. These people, I just want to share this with you. This is how important it is. This is why Sheriff, EMS, and Fire does not support this bill. Because what's going to happen? We're going to see people irresponsible or just want to have a good time. We've all have made mistakes, including myself. We're going to see increase in DUIs. We saw that last night with a handout that was passed out. All three of those individuals we lost that day. That was the only time in the history since I've served in 28 years that we called in a critical incident team because it was a very difficult run. This is why I cannot support this bill. We have a mental illness crisis right now, fentanyl crisis. We have kids. I have even another scenario where kids have got edibles with the gummy bears. I'm not even going to talk about that scenario. This is just bad policy. We want to uplift our young generation. And if you've been on as many runs that I have on DUIs and how it has affected under individuals who were not involved, bystanders, you would be voting with me to vote no. So, of course, members, I am asking you to vote no.
We're moving along, bud. We're moving along.
We as EMS volunteers are busy enough. We have ran into several tragedies of death of young people and elderly people. We had a run just this week. Oh, no, not this week. It was a couple weeks ago where a gentleman was driving under the influence, ran in the back of a vehicle of a mom and 3 young kids. And we got called to assist Graceville. Ortonville and Browns Valley was called.
Awful. Was he smoking cannabis?
At 2 a.m. to assist in that run.
Yeah?
Minnesotans deserve better. Minnesota needs to be protected. I will be voting no, and I ask members to vote no on this bill. This isn't about fun. This is about lives. We need to protect from DUI, preventing additional DUI, because folks in my profession respond to these terrible tragedies. Thank you, member. Vote no, please.
The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, members, this bill is about safety of the public, which it does not do. We have approximately 417 police departments and sheriff's departments, state patrol, law enforcement agencies in this state. And
Who
of
votes
those
these clowns
departments,
in?
The vast majority of
Seriously.
them do have a canine unit. Now, these canines are specialty trained, and once they're trained, it's very difficult to untrain them. Pretty much impossible. And going on conservative numbers, let's say there's 200 that are trained for marijuana. At about $20,000 a piece for training and the dogs, plus more training afterwards. But just the original dog getting it set up to go out for the first time is about $20,000. When you times that by the $200 or 200 dogs, which I know is a conservative number, that's $4 million to our local police departments and sheriff's offices. Now I'm wondering if Representative Stevens would answer a question for me.
Representative Stevenson will yield. Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, Representative Stevens, can you tell me how much money is in this bill to help defer the cost to our counties and police departments for the cost of retirement of the dogs and the replacement?
Representative Johnson, we don't have a Representative Stevens. We have Representative Stevenson, and he will yield and he will answer your question. Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Johnson, there are, as we went through last night, considerable appropriations to local units of government in multiple different areas of the bill, including appropriations for public safety in the bill. I could look to get the specific numbers that you're referencing. I don't know them right off the top of my head, but I could look for you.
Representative Johnson.
Speaker Hartman, Representative Stevenson, I did not see anything reading through the bill dealing with our canine units.
Specifically our
Now,
canine
these
units?
dogs
What are you
are
fucking
service.
doing? You are just focused on the dogs?
I do have much more than
Who
just
gives a fuck?
deal with the marijuana.
You fucking idiot.
They also deal with cocaine, methamphetamine.
What about it?
And fentanyl, and a host of other drugs. They're also there for safety for our officers. When you get out into greater Minnesota, a lot of times there is only one officer. I can remember for 2 months after midnight, I was the only officers for 3 cities and the county. I was by myself. I'm just thankful that neighboring departments would monitor before we got the 800 system so they could actually hear what's going on in my county to come and help when a bad call came in. But I have concerns on this. At safety, we're going to have an influx of fentanyl, a very deadly narcotic, synthetic narcotic that is killing our kids. The number one killer for people between 18 and 45. And this bill is only going to make the situation worse. It's not going to make our streets safer. In states that they've done this already, number of deaths and deadly crashes involving marijuana has dramatically increased. This bill does nothing for the safety of our citizens. It does nothing. It's nothing but a feel-good bill.
Oh, nothing but a feel-good bill. Is that what it is?
Also, we're
Who the
gonna have
fuck
some
combed
other
your
issues
hair?
that I see coming down the road because of this that other states have had. For those of you who enjoy your Second Amendment rights and use your permit to carry from Minnesota to while traveling, you best be careful.
Man, stop!
These permits might not be honored in any other states anymore.
Oh no!
And if you didn't know, because marijuana is still federally illegal, if you get caught in any other state or involved in a motor vehicle accident where you have marijuana in your system, you have permanently lost your Second Amendment rights. So for those reasons, and for the safety of this state and their citizens, members, please vote red.
We're voting
The
green,
member from
baby.
St. Louis, Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I hope today I'll keep saying Madam Speaker. I apologize for yesterday. This is a really one of the harder votes for me to take. When I was running for office, this was a very, very discussion point. And it seems like a lot of people in northern Minnesota believe that this should be legal, everything should be done and be done with it. On the first blush, that's the way it feels. It's just, why not? What are we hurting? It's been around. Let's do it. Representative Stevenson has done, in my opinion, a really good job of shepherding this through the system. He's gotten a lot of changes. He's done changes. One of my biggest concerns, again, from me being involved in small government, being the mayor, city councilor, the meaningful local control. I need to see more on that. I need to see more with the recognition of the costs through local government revenue sharing. And not so much allowing the local entity to tax more. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is if more police, if more, because like where I'm from, when we get someone that gets arrested, we have to drive them 55 miles one way and then back. So it's a lot more in our area because we don't have jails everywhere. We have jails in only so many places, and people bring them there. And the numbers that we've been seeing from Washington, Colorado, everywhere, there are more arrests. I mean, it'll settle down. And again, I know there's some talk about an amendment that if we could say that if you have a community of 5,000, there should be, a minimum of one. And that way we can somewhat regulate how many go where and how they go. Again, I truly believe the open market will determine where these businesses go and how many there are. But part of one of the questions that I haven't had answered yet, and I'd like to see what the authors, Representative Stevenson's, could I ask him a question, Madam Chair?
He will yield. Representative Scraba.
What happens to this law when it passes, when the federal government legalizes marijuana?
Representative Stevenson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Scraba, I think most of the law will be able to continue. There are a few things in the bill that probably will need to be modified when we do have a federally legal system. The biggest example of that is we have a provision in the bill that doesn't allow for the importation of cannabis. You can't have cannabis grown in California or Colorado brought to Minnesota. That provision, frankly, is necessary because of federal law currently, but if it was legal on a federal level, that law would actually become unconstitutional, and so we will need to change it at that point when that happens. But we're not there yet. Hopefully we will be in the near future, but we're not there yet.
Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, this is really I don't know why it's sort of hard for me right now. Again, I've got 4 more email this morning saying please support this. It's kind of a big deal, but at the same time, being a mayor, I understand that local control. I did talk to several communities, and their concern is that is, if the businesses get too big, how are they going to manage it? How are they function? Some of our communities don't have local police; they have the sheriff. So, with that, I think I'm leaning more on the red. So I appreciate all the effort and everybody did. But thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right, what a bunch of babbling nonsense to say you're not for it. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see it. Good to see it.
The member from Todd, Representative Weiner.
Let's go, Weiner. What do you got to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was an interesting bill and something that you and I had to reach out and talk to someone. an expert I would consider in the field. More than a constituent, I guess I'd consider him my best bud. We were discussing this bill last night, how assuming how long it was going to go on, and he figured 4, I figured 4:20. But I knew he would walk out here tired, bloodshot eyes, stiff joints, as we zigzagged through this discussion and rolled up a new future for Minnesota, so to speak. But my bud was talking about some of these things and his issues with this bill, and we're on opposite sides of the spectrum. He knows how I feel about it. I know how he feels about it. But he doesn't want to see the state go to pot. His assumption of this bill is half-baked. It's not ready. He was watching the discussion last night, and he was so engrossed in it that he didn't even take his dog Snoop out for a walk around Cypress Hill. He wanted to know how it was going to turn out. But when it was all said and done, he said the worst 2 things about this bill is, once again, we're growing government, and it doesn't help our society. He's for the bill, but he says we're going to add taxes, we're going to grow government, and we're going to have nothing to show for it. So he said, Mike, light that board up red and vote no. Thank you.
The member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley. Member from Candy Ojai, Representative Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, members, Madam Speaker. I'm kind of glad we had a chance to sleep on this a little bit too. I don't think that was our intention, but I was able to actually get a little bit more information overnight and just sleep on it. But again, I do appreciate the robust conversation we all had here on the House floor yesterday into the evening. And again, I want to encourage members that are on the fence. And I hear there's some members that are just, I'm not sure. Representative Scraba, he's having a hard time with this because, again, there are things that people kind of assumed were going to happen this year when we came down here. First blush, pass the bill. Come on. We've been talking about this long enough. Let's just pass the marijuana bill. And I kind of get that. I go into this argument sometimes with my kids, my adult children. Come on, Dad. Get with the program.
Yeah.
Get with it. I know every one of us hear that from some other folks who say, this is not the end of the world. Well, I want to tell you, there are worse bills out there. There are worse policy that we could do. House File 2 is one of the worst bills coming. That is one of the worst I've ever seen. There's House File 1. There's other ones. I get it. But what's important about today's wrap-up bill with marijuana, legalizing recreational pot, is that there's some components here that we are not ready for here in Minnesota. The workforce will suffer. Workforce, job sites will suffer. People will lose their jobs because it's in their system. More people will be exposed to this. It'll be in their system, and they're going to be unaware of the consequences when they try this because it's.
We're these fucking kids. We're adults.
Another big component that's wrong in this bill, folks, is we did not give the proper local control to our local governments.
Fuck them.
They need to be able to limit and have some guardrails in those areas.
No.
So that they can look at their local citizens that they represent and say, we think we've got it right here. I think there should have been the ability to say you have to at least let one dispensary in your municipality or your county to at least say you can't deny it. I get some of that, but not unlimited. This is real problematic.
That sucks, man. Sorry you feel that way.
I think the biggest problem that I had, again, as I mentioned last night, we are going to cause a lot of pain with our youth. We're going to cause a lot of pain with our youth because they're going to find themselves hooked on something that started with marijuana.
Like alcohol?
It is clear.
Started with alcohol?
That I shared last night was extremely clear in my mind. And I want to share a little bit that came over again this morning about
Come
our
on, man.
decisions
Come
on some of
on.
the things that we were doing. This is from George Romuto. He was in committee. He's a professor emeritus, a psychiatrist. He was the medical director for the state of Minnesota with the Child and Adolescent Hospital out in Wilmer. One of the smartest guys I know on how the brain is developing. We worked together a lot on our opioid stuff. He sent me this email this morning. Again, he was kind of watching it, and he just, again, Representative Baker, the age issue is so important to this bill. There's reports out there. The effect of this cannabis on the neurology, the plasticity, and creating abnormal neural network circuitries are absolutely affected by THC. And what's different here is alcohol, opioids, tobacco do not get affected the same way. But THC has a different influence.
What the fuck is he saying?
Cannabinoid system. That is what's different about this marijuana. THC affects the brains and the neurons and the connections differently than alcohol does. So remember that part of it. This is important. The other question came up is cannabis lethal? Well, it certainly is. People who have become addicted use these substances in combination with other things. Last Friday, the JAMA report reported that drug overdoses during the past 12 years showed there was an increase of 17% annually of death, lasting physical damage to the body, and disability when cannabis was a part of the mixture that killed somebody. It's all about the combinations, members. It's about multiple uses. That's what people are doing. That's when we lose a lot of people. And another big part of this bill that's a real problem is we didn't put the limits on the THC levels. A potency cap would have been a really smart thing to do. I realize a buyer can buy and ingest more product to get a more potent effect. If you are talking about our edible cannabis, we have it, we put limits on that. But we didn't here. The one thing we should do to take to conference, whether it's part of this bill or not, Chair Stevenson, is to make sure that we've got excellent, outstanding warning labels. At least do that. At least do that with great big letters, great big red letters, to let them know that people under the age of 25 are affected differently. So, members, I'm a big red no. If you say no today, it's because you care about the children, you care about what's going to hit them.
Don't guilt people like that.
Because we passed this bill, or because the state of Minnesota decades and decades ago passed a 21-year-old age limit for alcohol, does not mean we should do it today when we know more today. I want to also maybe make one more comment. Last night it was mentioned how we failed miserably on the war on drugs back in the 1970s, 1980s. I think Representative Hollins was the one who made that statement. She's not wrong.
90s, thousands,
But it's
tens,
all we
what
knew
else?
back then, members. We take the information we have today and we do something with it. At least back then, they did something on the war on drugs, because we're fighting this thing every single day. So we know more today. We can do a better job today. We got to continue to look at our policies, our rules. What we are doing today is going to hurt Minnesota going down the road. So at first blush,
no, it won't.
Seems easy to pass this marijuana bill, but if you look at the bill, you should have a very good reason why this should not pass today. Let's keep working on it. Let's take it back.
No, it's passing,
the
sir.
committees, and let's
Sit
actually
down.
get the edible bill done right first.
Sit down.
Before we pass this, because we didn't do that one right last year. So members, please vote no.
The member from Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Madam
Oh,
Speaker.
not this fucking clown.
You know, it was great we had this long discussion, and now we are finally coming down to a vote. But everybody should know, there's a very good reason marijuana is illegal. Last year, it killed 480,000 people. No, mind, that's tobacco. Sorry. All right. 140,000. Marijuana killed 140,000 people last year. Oh, alcohol. Sorry. Got my numbers mixed up here. Oh, 500. It's got to be 500. This is a dangerous illegal substance. We must ban it. We cannot let it be legal. 500 people died. Oh, that's Tylenol. We are talking about a substance with no lethality. The time for marijuana prohibition is over, and it's been over for quite some time. The war on drugs was an abject failure that put tons of people in prison based on faulty reasoning and faulty science. And it hurt communities who definitely didn't deserve it. We fixed a lot of those problems over the years. We've moved in the right direction. It's essentially decriminalized in this state, but it's still not legal. 53% of Minnesotans agree that we should end marijuana prohibition. 68% of Americans agree we should end marijuana prohibition. And in that same poll, and with the Minnesotans, only 36% opposed. 36%. Which tells you there's a significant amount of Republicans that think it's about time we end marijuana prohibition. Prohibition has worked about as well as it did when we did it with alcohol in the early 1900s. When you prohibit something, you make it criminal, and that only benefits the criminals. It doesn't help anyone. It enriches them through violence. They don't call the Consumer Reports Bureau to report they got some bad weed. They go and shoot them. But if they could go in a safe environment where the product is safely tested so they don't have fentanyl, it's completely non-lethal. When you see any death where marijuana is involved, there's always something else. There's always something else, because you cannot die from THC alone. That doesn't mean it's a safe substance we should encourage, just like alcohol. We shouldn't say, everybody go out and get hammered. This is great. Go smoke weed. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying, this shouldn't be illegal anymore. And only 36% of Minnesotans disagree. That's a sizable amount of Republicans who believe marijuana prohibition should be over. And a lot of people will say, well, marijuana is a gateway drug, because when we look at heroin addicts or anything, they always start with marijuana.
Alcohol?
If that's the logic for what a gateway drug is, alcohol is certainly a much more dangerous gateway drug. Almost every single person who eventually finds them addicted to heroin started with alcohol. And before that, you know what else is a psychoactive drug that could be a gateway drug by that definition? Caffeine. And if you look at our desks, we got a lot of drug users around here. So it doesn't make any sense to call it a gateway drug. But you know what makes it a gateway drug? Do you know what makes it actually dangerous? Is prohibiting it. Because then when you have to go down the street alley and buy your little dime bag of weed, that puts you in a place where somebody might be selling heroin. They might be selling Adderall. They might be selling a litany of incredibly dangerous narcotics, some of which can be prescribed by a doctor. But if they can go into a store and get greeted by a nice man who's like, hey man, how you doing today? We got some sativa here, indica. That is where you want somebody to be doing this non-dangerous substance and acquiring it there rather than going in the alley. If we put it in a safe retail environment where it's tested and we ensure that it's just cannabis, it's not laced with fentanyl, it's safer. And it's not a gateway drug. Now, the next most common criticism is that we don't have a roadside test, and that is a valid criticism. There is no roadside test. That is very, very concerning. However, we don't have a roadside test for opiates. We don't have a roadside test for cough medicine. We don't have a roadside test for a litany of things, like just sleep deprivation. But those are still available at your drugstore. So, that doesn't mean we just ignore that problem, because that is a real problem. And that's why this bill puts $10 million. I think we can juice that number a little more in conference, I hope. But it puts $10 million to drug recognition enforcement police officer training. Because if a police officer pulls somebody over, gets them out of the car, thinks they're intoxicated, they have bloodshot eyes, they're glassy, but they all say they have them do the breathalyzer and they're not drunk on alcohol, well, they'll still run a sobriety test. They can get somebody with the proper training to come down and test them whether they're going to be safe behind the wheel. We already do that for cough medicine and the like. We can do that for cannabis, and especially legal cannabis that's been tested and proven to be safe. And the majority of Minnesotans have already used cannabis. Over 50%, easily. It's available for the people who want it. So the next big concern is about the kids. Another very valid concern. We know that it has a negative effect on brain development, just like alcohol or tobacco. So we want to be very careful when legalizing this substance that then kids could get it. However, you look at states that have legalized, teen use is about the same. Why is teen use about the same within the margin of error of all the polling that's done? Because they can get it already. We're not stopping anybody from anything right now. We're just encouraging a kid to have a bad interaction with a police officer when they're caught with dope in their back seat. We don't see an increase in youth use. And if we did, yes, that would be a great concern to all of us, regardless of what side of this argument you're on. But one thing that's interesting, we do see overall cannabis use increase. But it's not the kids. It's all of you people. It's the boomers who then feel comfortable to go, I did this when I was a teenager, I'll go ahead and try it today. And what's the difference between a 65-year-old going to get a joint instead of a glass of scotch? I would argue the joint is the safer choice. And last session, we legalized intoxicating THC already. Right now, you want to go get high on THC? You can walk literally, 3 blocks from here to the BP on the corner, get yourself a little bag of hemp edibles, which have intoxicating THC in them already. You know what we haven't seen is a rash of people who are high all the time that can't drive and an increase in accidents. It's here now. And the hemp industry has demonstrated that they can do it safely. So what's the public policy benefit of doing this? There's only one public policy benefit, and that is the elimination of the black market, which still exists. That takes care of the crime we see associated with drugs, and it also makes it so it's not a gateway drug that leads people on the dark path of addiction. However, on the flip side, so I've kind of gone after people who are against this. There's some people who say marijuana is not addictive. It certainly is addictive. You can see that everywhere. Any serious person can see that. But compared to other addictions like alcohol, well, at least the marijuana addiction's not going to kill you, but it's still harmful. Now, this bill has a lot of work to do, which is why it's going to go to conference. But it's undeniably the right path. That's where the evidence shows. And if you want to say people vote with their actions, 68% of Americans support this, 53% of Minnesotans support this, and I guarantee you it's higher now. When I polled my district, I had 81% support cannabis legalization. 81%. I didn't think it would be nearly that high, but that was just 2 years ago. So what do we need to do to make this bill better? And I have to say Representative Stevenson has been incredibly helpful to work with. We've moved quite a ways. He's taken some amendments like the DRE funding for the drug record enforcement officers that a lot of people over here would like to see. He's limited from 5 pounds, which is just a catastrophic amount, as we saw when it was presented in committee, down to 1.5 pounds. We've made some good strides on this bill. It's working its way. Now, I've already talked about, through the amendments, the biggest problems that I see. And that's the licensing system, the woke ideology in here, because Minnesotans want legal weed, but they don't necessarily want all the politically partisan bells and whistles you're tacking onto it. My hope is we can minimize those in conference committee. We can make it so this bill has significant bipartisan support. But as you heard from a lot of members over here, well, you kind of hamstring cities. They don't really have a lot of flexibility. It's better than when the bill started, but it still has a little work to go. I'd like to see if we can work on that in conference committee. I agree, you can't completely ban it from your city because that defeats the purpose of eliminating the black market. But hamstringing cities on the placement of these businesses is not what the cities want, I can tell you that. We've heard from a lot of our cities that that's not the way to go. And with the licensing system and the ban on vertical integration in particular, that is just bad policy. And see, that's where I see ideology is creeping in here rather than doing what's best for Minnesotans. Because, okay, I get it. When you look at the medical marijuana program, 2 companies dominate the market, and I assume that's where that came from. But that bill, the medical marijuana legislation that was passed, basically made that the only way that was going to be. By allowing vertical integration, that doesn't mean that big business is going to come in here and take over the market. It's going to mean that we will have low-cost marijuana, which will help strangle the black market. The low tax rate in this bill is actually pretty good at doing that, but if you can't vertically integrate and cut down on some of those costs, you're going to have a low tax rate, but you're still going to have expensive product. And that's going to hurt the #1 public policy benefit of this bill, which is eliminating the black market. So we need to get rid of that prohibition on vertical integration. It's the right policy. It's the only argument against it is ideological. If this doesn't eliminate the black market, as we've seen in California, in particular, New York especially, the black market's alive and well despite legal cannabis because of the way the business. So let's not do that in this bill. Let's allow businesses to operate.
Yo, what up?
And sell a competitively.
What up,
product that
Hawkeye?
consumers want.
What up,
And as far as the
Zefta?
social equity stuff in this bill that I strongly disagree with, that I think it's unfair.
I know my audio's a little bit off. I was trying to figure out how to sync it. Can't figure out how to sync
in
it. Here we
areas
are.
that will only bring problems to those communities.
These people
Well, you
before
can
this
get
vote
rid of
has
all
been
of
like,
that
they're hard to
stuff
listen to, man. I'm
And keep the
struggling.
grant programs that are social equity based in the back of this bill. will
Buffer,
come
yeah,
back
maybe
with
I
local
could
control,
adjust
a better
that.
licensing system that's fair. I expect you to see significant.
Fuck, I wonder how I
bipartisan
could do
support.
that.
And I would happily help you with that if we can move in that direction in conference committee. Ending marijuana prohibition is the right way to go. It absolutely is. It's what the public wants. It's a safe substance. And the prohibition now only benefits criminals. Because if all the alcoholics today...
How's it going? Happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? What the fuck? It's Tuesday, dude. I thought it was Wednesday for a second. All right, happy
beat
Tuesday.
their spouses. If all those
It
alcoholics...
says Tuesday right fucking there. I'm
were
so dumb.
potheads, we'd live in a better world.
All right,
Member
he's
from
done.
Anoka, Representative Scott.
More.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And last night,
Is this
right
DFL?
before we adjourned for the evening, a piece was sent out to all of your desks, and it's entitled "Marijuana
Of
and
course
Pregnancy."
it's not.
And
Son of a bitch.
It's from the website for the American College
Dude.
of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and I just wanted to speak briefly about
It is.
the health risks to women who may want to get pregnant, that are pregnant and are breastfeeding. And before I get to that, I'm wondering if Representative Stevenson would yield to a question, Madam Chair.
He will yield. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Stevenson, I understand
This
is
is
a
the
warning,
House
of some substance
File
in this bill. Could you
100
tell
cannabis
me
bill in Minnesota.
about the
We're voting
language
on
of
it
that
right
warning and
now.
what it actually does.
On the House side, it should
Representative
pass on
Stevenson.
the House,
Thank you,
and
Madam
it'll
Speaker.
be
Thank you,
1/3 of the
Representative
way
Scott.
through.
And actually, this was an amendment that
I mean, it's gone
I believe
through
Representative
multiple
Brindley offered in the
committees,
Commerce Committee,
so
and
we're
it was
coming up to the end
first
now to
hearing was
pass.
to ensure that as the office is preparing a warning label requirement, that they provide scientifically appropriate information about risks to people.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. She's Peggy as fuck too.
So, I think that it is a concern that we heard. We heard it raised by your caucus, and we incorporated it into the bill. That the warning labels. That's one of the topics they need to address with the warning labels.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Stevenson. Would he yield to another question?
I like the way you asked that.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Stevenson, is that a priority
I'm
for
smoking
you?
a bowl for all
the
of you
health risks
right now.
that may be involved with whether it's for pregnant or wannabe, breastfeeding women, or any other health risks. Is that an important topic for you, a priority for you to get it right in this bill?
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Scott. Of course, the health considerations are important to this bill generally, and it's one strong advantage to moving to a legal, regulated marketplace. If you are buying cannabis on the illicit marketplace, there is no warning label, not as to what it does if you're pregnant or under any other circumstance. So we can have a more responsible and educated consumer if we move to a legitimate marketplace. And we can also make sure that the product itself.
This is the author of the bill right here, Zach Stevenson.
In this bill, seed to sale monitoring of cannabis to make sure that it's not laced with some other substance that would be far worse for someone who's pregnant or for someone else than cannabis alone.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Stevenson. I'm glad to hear that that's a priority to you. Members, just to reiterate some
That's
of the
so funny you say
dangers,
something about that. I was looking
both
at their
the baby
microphones
and
like,
the
that's
mom,
weird, but
for in cannabis use. Disruption of brain development before
they
birth
could just
for the
like plug them
baby,
back into the
smaller
fucking
size
seat that they're
birth,
at.
higher
So I
risk
don't know.
of stillbirth,
Maybe
higher
it's
chance
easy.
of being born too early, especially when you use both marijuana and cigarettes during pregnancy, and harm from secondhand marijuana smoke. Also, behavioral problems in childhood and trouble paying attention in school. And for the mom, permanent lung injury from smoking marijuana, dizziness, putting you at risk of falls, impaired judgment, putting you at risk of injury, and lower levels of oxygen in the body, which can lead to breathing problems. And that, folks, is just for pregnant women and the fetus, and that would go, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists recommend, if you are trying to become pregnant, to not use marijuana. Definitely, if you are pregnant, don't use it. Because there are, or breastfeeding, because there are effects to the mom and the baby. And members, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I was doing some work over the
Peggy,
weekend.
let's move
and
on.
I looked up the warning labels for tobacco use, and there are 11 different warning labels.
Yeah,
Depending
you can
on
literally
what
tell about the Andover
the negative side
demographic just
effect
by
would be,
her.
whether
you know,
that's
just-
lung
this is who
cancer,
they
which we
voted
all
in.
think of, whether it's it can harm circulation to the point, and they have this really awful graphic picture of someone that's lost some of their toes due to tobacco use. And
Why
the
are
loss
we
of
talking
circulation.
about
So there's
tobacco?
11 different warnings there. So I'm really glad to hear Representative Stevenson that that's a concern for you, because there should be labels, not just for pregnant women or women that want to become pregnant or are breastfeeding, but there should be all kinds of warnings that talk about the potential side effects, the impeded brain development for those under the age of 25, the problems concentrating,
Impeding brain development.
problems with impaired judgment,
Let's legalize
development of mental health
psilocybin
episodes.
mushrooms
Another side effect of
to
marijuana
rewire
use.
the brain.
Lack of motivation and productivity, and permanent
Stereotypes.
permanent lung problems from smoking marijuana, and
You can
also
ingest many other
the
ways.
jury is still out, but I bet it won't be out very long on secondhand smoke, marijuana smoke. So, members, I just wanted to bring those few items to our attention. That's something that we need to really
do it.
If we're going to do
She
this,
just
it's
linked.
like we are, then we need to do it in a
She
way
was talking
that
about-
the public is informed of all the potential side effects. You know, it used to be thought that there was nothing unsafe about tobacco use, and we've learned differently. And
She was talking
while we
about
don't have
tobacco and
a
cannabis
ton of
use
studies out
being
there
a cause
on
of
extended marijuana
early
use, there are enough to put
early
on
birth,
warning
but I
labels, and
don't
so I
think
just
there's
encourage
reports about
as
cannabis
this bill moves
causing
forward,
that
becomes a
exclusively.
priority. Thank you, members.
Tobacco, that makes sense, but
The member from Dakota, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, members. I know I talk a lot about cannabis legalization. Hopefully, this will be the last time you.
if this is
or
who
one
I
of the
think it
last
is,
times
I
you hear
love
me
this
talk about
chick,
on this
dude.
House floor after we pass this today.
I love this
But today's
chick.
a really exciting day for me
Yep.
and the cannabis community.
I
As
love
many
this
of you
chick.
know, I've been a leader in the cannabis
Let's go,
legalization
Burnsville.
community for a number of years before
Good to see
and
you.
during my time in the legislature. I've stood alongside tireless community advocates who have volunteered their time to fight to bring an end to prohibition. And I want to welcome many of them who are in the galleries today and are watching online. It's because of the cannabis community and legislative supporters that we're here today. These are the people who said that the days of doing things about us, without us, are over. And they partnered with the people who agreed that the people most impacted by a policy should be at the table making the decisions together. This community showed up, they told their
Burnsville
stories,
Blaze.
they collaborated, they organized, and they developed a model that kicked off the bill that's before us today.
Burnsville
proud to
is
say that
skeezy
this
for sure.
is
They got a lot of money in
Arguably
Burnsville.
to some, but in my opinion,
But this
the
woman is
best
very
model
intelligent.
for
I love
legalization
how
in the
eloquent
nation.
she is with her words.
So to everyone who's advocated for this, thank you. Thank you for showing
She's
up,
strong for
for being
support,
vulnerable,
and I
for
appreciate her.
sacrificing your time and energy, for participating with your government in such a collaborative and effective way. This is what it looks like to be the change you want to see in the world. You've heard
I almost want to
me
call
say
her,
this many
leave
times
her a
before,
message,
members,
let
that
her know how
prohibition
awesome
is a
she is.
failed racist system.
Seriously.
It was put in place to intentionally harm Black and Brown Americans. Prohibition has failed to keep communities safer than legalization can. Prohibition has failed to improve public safety. Prohibition and the war on drugs
fuck is
have
honking
corrupted the
outside?
intent of our justice system. And it has been nothing less than propaganda and a lie. Minnesotans have told us loud and clear that prohibition is the problem, not cannabis, and that they expect us to bring an end to the sinister days of prohibition and create a safe, legal, regulated market that promotes equity and reparation for our errors of the past. For nearly 100 years, too many people have lost their jobs, their homes, their property, their families, their lives, their opportunities as a result of cannabis prohibition. This was intentional. It was not an accident. It was not because people did not know better. They knew exactly what they were doing when they put this in place. And today, we're doing something about that. We have learned from other states. We have learned
Rate
from
my
our
professor.
past. We have learned from our
Oh, for-
communities, and we're doing the right thing by passing
That's
this
a really
bill
good
today.
idea, actually.
From the first in the nation automatic expungements to stellar social
I
equity
really like that
aspects
idea.
to thoughtful agency design, this is the best foot forward as we enter into the new legal market. So again, I just want to applaud everyone who has worked on this bill. Chair Stevenson joined the front lines of the cannabis movement this year, and it's really been
Let's
an honor
go,
to
ladies
work
and
with him
gentlemen. This is the year.
and to learn from him.
Minnesota, we're fucking
We've
doing
had him
it.
at the helm, leading the way through every committee and every amendment,
I'm
working
proud of the
with
work
staff
into this
on
shit
every
by
engrossment.
everyone.
This community has grown and has more supporters than ever before. And Chair Stevenson listened. He incorporated feedback from hundreds of stakeholders, and he never let any one group or person dominate any decision. So thank you for that. I also want to say thank you to Chairs Zhang and Gomez and all of the other members who have authored a bill in the past and all of the staff that helped bring that and pave the way to where we are today. The collaboration in this movement between government and community is a case study for how good public policy can be done and how to bring about comprehensive social change. And I was going to end my comments there, but when we tabled this bill last night, I just wanted to add a few more things because it's really exciting to present this bill today, considering what else is on our calendar and what other folks are here to support. This bill is about so much more than just legalizing cannabis. It is on point with today's theme of improving safety while honoring justice and civil rights. It's about reparation and reconciliation. It's about doing better because we know better. Today's a good day to be a Minnesotan. And as we pass this bill,
It is.
that
Let's
will make
go.
Minnesota a safer place for everyone, starting with this bill of ending cannabis prohibition. You know, members, every day we stand in this chamber, most of us, and we start our session with a prayer and a pledge, and we all say, with liberty and justice for all. Some of us add the social justice part. But I want you to join me today in kicking off today's version of what liberty and justice looks like in action, and vote green on this bill. Thank you.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members, for this debate. I wish I shared your enthusiasm for this bill, but I do not. There's so many things I want to respond to, and I'll try to keep it short.
Oh, Robbins. No, not you.
The people who are opposed to this bill are upholding propaganda, and a lie is horrifying to me. You stand with the advocates of cannabis. I am standing with parents who have lost their children. People who are
Dude, she's so good and real.
counselors and doctors.
Dude, do you hear? Robbins
given
is
their lives
awful, though,
for people
dude.
who are
This
fighting
chick is
substance use
awful.
Members,
She's
this
awful.
is not something to celebrate. I agree that there needs to be things fixed, but unleashing this on Minnesota is not something to celebrate. And it is not a propaganda and the lie. The data that we have brought forward about the impacts on children's brains, the data we have brought forward about a 15% increase in fatal accidents in Canada. Members, there is reams of data about the negative impacts of what you are about to do that will happen in our state. And I want to point that out and make sure that in all your celebrations, you feel the weight of that responsibility. The people who are opposed to this bill are not trying to hold people down or harm people institutionally. It's the Minnesota Psychiatric Association. It is the Minnesota Association of Children and Adolescent Psychology. Multiple addiction recovery specialists and treatment centers who have submitted letters. The Minnesota Medical Association, the insurance industry, the Beverage Association, the Sheriff's Association, the Charter Bus Association, the League of Cities, the Association of Counties. Members, I can't even remember all the people who are opposed to
Unleash.
There's a broad swath of Minnesotans who know that
No
this
single marijuana
bill
is responsible
going to bring
for
more
murder.
harm than good, and that it is
Okay,
not
maybe
ready.
some murders have
And
happened.
I'm so disappointed at those comments. But I want to go back to a couple things. I just want to get on the record because I had people reach out to me last night, Chair Stevenson, after our discussion about the drug recognition experts. And I appreciate that you put the $10 million in the bill. And I really appreciate your intention to honor that commitment. And so just to get it on the record today, I've had people ask me to talk about this. So just to clarify, the fiscal note may be out of date, but the fiscal note clearly says that it would cost $50 an hour and 4 hours for training. I have communication from the head of the DRE program in Minnesota at the State Patrol, who says that's wildly low. And he also is the one who provided the detail about the $10 million and how we got there. And so I did have a exchange with Ben Johnson, the wonderful staff person today, and he was supporting the way they broke down the 10 million. So I just, wherever this goes future, I just hope that those records in the fiscal note are corrected and
The
updated.
insurance industry.
So I'll provide that to you.
We
if you
have to
don't have
protect the insurance
it.
industry.
Speaking of Ben Johnson, I
Just like
wanted
the
to
drug
give
dogs that are
thanks
all
to
out of a
amazing
fucking
staff,
job, dude.
Ben Johnson, I don't know who the staff researcher on your side was, the name of that person, but I'm sure they worked as hard and as ably as our Casey Peterson. The staff has worked incredibly hard on this, and we're very grateful for everyone's hard work. I also wanted to go back to the question of, Minnesotans do support legalization. I think that's right. I think, the debate has been like 53%, 56%. I think if you just had a poll,
65%.
Minnesotans do want legalization, I think, yeah, probably the majority would say yes. But they do not know the details
That's
of
a
this
for
bill.
sure.
And if you ask them, do you want the state to spend $1 million and $400,000 ongoing to create a cash facility? I don't know they'd say that. Do you think that they would want to have all these problems with local control? I've heard from a lot of people who don't want that. So I think we need to be very careful with the problems in this bill, and hopefully they will get addressed going forward. One of the things that we didn't talk about yesterday that I did want to bring up, because again, I don't think Minnesotans know about this, is that there are incredible amounts of money in this bill to provide support for these new businesses, because it's unlikely they would succeed in the marketplace on their own. And so we are creating a market where we know, given sort of like normal business plans, business parameters,
They have to move to
there
Iowa,
would be
dude.
great likelihood of success. So we're propping it up with $17 million in grants to nonprofits that will help them, supposedly. And interestingly, we're also setting up a state loan program. And this will allow the state to make business loans for up to $150,000 that are renewable for 6 years to prop up these businesses. And if you're just an individual, there's this notion that because of all the ways that this licensing structure is set up and the social equity points, that we're going to create all these wonderful, successful small businesses. And members, I just have to say, I think that's a well-intentioned notion, but that is not how it is going to play out based on how this bill is designed, and that's not how it's played out in other states.
I'm sorry you
So if
feel
you're just
that
a
way,
regular
but it
mom
gives
and
people
pop
a
person
chance.
who wants the retail license and you want the grant to start your business, you might get a $5,000 loan.
Not everyone will be successful.
Investors, you can get the high-end loan for $150,000.
We can all fucking at least grow at home too,
And so,
though.
members,
That gives
that's
the
what's
option
gonna
for that.
happen.
So
People are going to get these licenses, and then they're going to go get outside investors from national
this is fucking.
cannabis
Is it
groups,
Nancy
and those
Robbins?
National big
I
cannabis
forgot who
groups
she's
are gonna come
representing.
in this state, and the state will be issuing them $150,000 loans every year for 6 years. That's taxpayer money going
Is
into
it Maple?
this. Members.
Oh,
I
she
don't
is
think
Maple
the public's
Grove.
on board with that.
Dude, Maple Grove,
Not
I
a lot
thought
of
was
people I
like
talked to.
St. Paul area, but maybe I got my Twin
Another
Cities
thing I
like all
wanted to get on
mixed
the
up.
record is yesterday we.
She's definitely
the-
from like
the board
uptighty
was
part.
green, and I was very happy to see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, there, Brooklyn
that,
Center. Yeah.
We support school bus drivers having zero tolerance.
Okay, that's what I was
for
thinking.
THC
That's
in
what I
their
was
system
thinking.
because they are driving our most precious citizens, our children, to school. And I appreciate that, and I do hope you fight for that in conference committee, Chair Stevenson. But then we turned around and we rejected the amendment that would have the same zero tolerance standard for Metro bus drivers and Metro Transit drivers. And I was talking to some people last night who contacted me about this, and it turns out that a lot of our school students, especially in Minneapolis, take Metro.
Did you not
Transit
watch
buses
yesterday's?
to school.
Yesterday's was awful,
So
man.
if
She
you're
had.
riding on a school bus, then your driver will have zero tolerance.
She had
but if you're a
literally 5 or
student
6
who
amendments,
happens to
dude,
be
in
on
a
a
row.
Metro Transit bus to
I'm
get to
pretty sure
school,
every single fucking
that
one
same
was
standard
turned
of
down.
safety will not be for you and your
The vote was
your
nice
children.
yesterday.
So
I
again,
loved
I
it.
urge
Just
you,
kept
Chair
passing and
Stevenson,
passing.
to
So
fix
I'm
that in
hoping.
conference, because I think all
Fingers
school
crossed. It'll
children
definitely pass
should
today.
have safe
Everyone's saying
transit, and all
Senate's going to be the
Minnesotans.
hardest,
So
but Wall said
I
he
urge you
will.
to take
So
that up.
if we can get through the Senate,
Let's see. Another thing we really didn't talk about
People
that
have
I
been
just
knocking
wanted
it
to
out of the
raise
park
are
in
there
the house,
a lot
but-
of concerns for employers for this bill. It's really not clear.
Oh, for real? Yeah, this
if
started
someone has
yesterday.
So first of all, just to refresh, there is no standard of impairment, and there is no easily available roadside test for.
Started yesterday at
And the bill really limits employers.
it was
ability
late.
to
They didn't get to the bill until like 8:30, and then they went until 12:05 in the morning, and they don't resume past midnight for the safety of all these individuals, obviously. So they they started it again at 11 today,
And they also can't conduct arbitrary.
and then they take a recess right away for lunch or whatever, and then they fucking came back at like 12:30, and now we're here.
It's very concerning.
But it'll be
about
voted on
how
today
the
for sure
liability
soon
will
here.
affect the employer.
And it'll
And
pass
it's
the
also very
House, which is a
concerning
third of
about
the
how
big chunk of the
employers'
way.
Insurance costs are going to go up, and I've heard from a lot of small businesses who are quite concerned about this. People who have small manufacturing businesses, people who do
Today's a big day for history in
things
Minnesota,
that aren't necessarily
as
like
far as getting it through the House.
construction, those kinds of things, where impairment really could affect the safety of the employee and other employees. The other thing that we have not talked about, that again, I'm not sure the public knows, and I don't think our bar and restaurant owners know this, or the people who are maybe getting the retail license, but the bill creates a civil cause of action so that if someone is injured due to someone's impairment, that person who's injured because of someone else's impairment has a private right of action to sue the business or the retailer who overserved the intoxicated person.
The numbers don't support the agenda
Even though
right now,
there
so
is
it's
no
easier to
standard
just
for
be
impairment, and there's no sense of what
to be
overserving
vague.
means. So the bill creates a private right of action. So for all of you who are excited about getting this retail license, you should be aware that you will be on the hook if there is an injury and you have overserved someone. And again, that will really hurt the insurance rates of these small businesses who want to get into this business. So members, those are some of the concerns I just want to make sure I got on the record.
Let's keep it moving, man.
I just want to recalibrate. People on our side of the aisle do support legalization, but the three buckets of concerns here are public safety, local control, and substance use disorder. And I hope the
And social
majority
equity is huge.
will continue to work in good faith to address some of those issues we've raised. But the
I feel like
biggest
the social
issue,
equity
members,
makes sense,
Is
but-
this notion, as Representative West talked about, other people talked about, that the public policy value of this is that we're going to eliminate the black market. Members, it won't happen. And partly it won't happen because we've seen it hasn't happened in other states, but partly we will not eliminate the black market because of the design of this bill. And Chair Stevenson, I hope you will take this with sincere intent that you change the effective date on this bill. Members, under this bill, cannabis will be legal in Minnesota on August 1st of this summer. So you can grow it at home, you can give away 2 ounces, everything will be legal. But the regulatory framework that this majority continues to say is the selling point for safety and testing and everything will be packaged and labeled, that's not going to be available for a year if we're optimistic, and I think that's crazy optimistic, at least a year and a half. So the black market